All right, welcome back to weekly classes, Q4, week 6 to the end. This is the finish line. This is the it. This is the end all be all. We are done. This is your final project. Now, what that means is if you're a senior in the class, then you're going to have a little less time. I take that into account. Obviously, I'm not going to hold you to the same level of detail as I will the underclassmen, who will have another week to week and a half to work on the project. But the concept still stands. You're still going to continue to build an object from scratch once again and build it with the time that you have. A lot of times when you're given a project in the industry, you will have a certain amount of time to do it. You need to make it as good as you possibly can in the time that you have. And that's basically what we're doing today. Or I should say, for the rest of the year. All right, so we're going to go through our top 10 from last year and then just sort of talk about how they did, what they did well, and then how you can do the same or better. Probably better. All right, here's number 10, Miss Allison. This is her cat. She did a pretty good job here. Kind of a weird skinny tail there, but you can see she's got the collision boxes well set in. She did a simple diffuse map, which is fine. The UV needs probably some work. She has logical overlapping here, and generally turned out pretty nice. Next, Miss Archer. Miss Archer also, well, she didn't do a cat, but she also did an animal here. You'll notice that there's actual fur texture, so she used normal mapping to make sure that she had that going. And now the thing about normal mapping is if you're going to overlap, it's going to create a seam wherever the overlap is. So you got to be really careful with how that's going to lay out, because what looks like it's coming out on one side will look like it's going in on the other. So it creates sort of a highlighted seam whenever there's two overlapping places that meet, like right here and right through there. So you got to be careful about that. It can be a lot more noticeable in Engine than it is in a still image like this. But still, this was actually created from her own drawing. So she drew up her concept art and then she actually built it out. Now I don't know what's going on with the checker map here, but you can actually see that the entire thing's laid out pretty well. So that just may be a weird rendering mistake. Moving on, number 8. This is Mr. Byerly's power glove thing. You can see he's very, very efficient with his use of space all the way through here. An excellent use of simple colors to still bring out all the detail and the geometry. As you can see, he actually modeled all this geometry, and here's his collision. So once again, just a really, really well done piece of work here. This is Miss Konekny's shark. Sort of a cartoonish looking shark. Pretty cheap on the poly count, which is nice. Stylized with this sort of like broad nose and sharp teeth looking fat little body. But turned out really nice. You can see the wireframe over here, and if you look closely you can see that she actually has her collision down here. All right. Once again, the coloring I think makes it really stand out, the eye in particular, but it's not that complicated, right? Once again, with diffuse maps, if you can make it look really nice, that's great, but that's not really your job. So don't spend too much time on the diffuse map. If you can make it look good quickly, that's great. If you can't, just get some basic colors on there so we know what's going on. Miss Konecny's splatter shot from the Squid Game. I forget. Oh, it'll come to me later. Anyway, oh, I can't remember it now. Oh, squid people. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so great detail, great use of detail on everything about it. You've got the nice rounded soft edges up here. You've got the hardened edges for the belt that holds the tank. Inklings. Dang it, I can't think of it. Oh, it's so close. Anyway, Splatoon. There it is. I got it. All right, good. You were probably screaming at the screen the whole time. Yes, I heard you. All right. Anyway, great work on this all together. good trigger. These are rounded on the edge, and once again, good use of UV, good use of extra sort of details through here. Just good work all the way around. This is Miss Skelet's axe, which is from a show that I'm not familiar with, but she did a great job on it. Used logical layout in our UV and simple colors, but it comes from a Adventure Time style show with very sort of simple art. So it looks pretty good. I think it works well for a 3D representation of a simplified 2D cartoonish axe. And it's a good use of polygons. Not like she could have used a whole lot of, she could have wasted a whole lot of polygons that she did not. So she did a great job there. This is Mr. Beggarzade's Evie. So Evie has these fluffy, you know, mane sort of puffs of hair, and he used different chunks of geometry to sort of represent that. Good looking checker map on here. Collision is simple, but still works, and just basic colors. He spent a lot of UV space on the eye, which makes sense because it needs that. In general, it turned out pretty good. Now we have Miss Vega's Jack Skellington. Once again, a lot of space was used on the face so that she could have those details, the crisp details in his mouth. He turned out very, very nicely. You can actually see that she has the jacket built in, but it's a plane, so you can't see it from both directions. Now, if she would have turned on force two-sided when she rendered it, you would have been able to see the entire jacket, which is unfortunate because it is there, and it does have the 4 points for the tail that look very nice, but you can't really see it here. She sort of went simple for the legs and hand UVs, but she was under a time crunch. She was actually a senior, so she was trying to knock it out relatively quickly. Mr. Scarborough's bat blade thing. You can tell he has some Photoshop experience because man does it show. It looks really great. You can also see that the object itself, this is a plane. So this is not a 2D, this is not just stuck on there. You can see it kind of right through there, that it's an actual separate 2D plane that runs across to sort of give the illusion that this is a piece of wire, you know, barbed wire that's holding it on there. And this is the, you can see very, very subtle, you know, subtly down here that he used an opacity map to sort of make that stand out the way it did, and it looks really fantastic. And all the rust and the blade itself looks really great, as well as all of the actual modeling that goes into it. He spent a lot of geometry on these little edges here, these circular cutouts, but man, it looks really nice. And then finally, Mr. SAUER created this. Now, as you can see, if you look closely, a lot of these pieces are faked using a normal map. The model itself does not have, you can see here, well, this is the collision actually, but the model itself doesn't actually have pieces here. This is all normal maps. So it would have been nice for him to actually include that, but you can tell that there's no extra paneling here. So this is all created with a normal map. All of the little details from the rotational jets to these little brackets and the connection system look just fantastic. So this is really, really great work. So now you've seen what some of the best work is. You are ready to get started on your final project for this year. You're going to want to make sure that you have the object itself. You add collision if it's a static mesh. If it's a skeletal mesh, you're going to add a skeleton and make sure you go ahead and skin that skeleton up. So that's a much more difficult process, and that will be incorporated into the grade. So if you're going the extra mile to make a skeletal system, as well as skin all that together, that will be taken into account for the final grade. It's not required. If you want to do a static mesh, that's fine, but know that the value is there if you go ahead and do a skeletal mesh. All right, once again, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this year's classes. I hope you feel like you've come a long way from the beginning when we create a snowman to the end when we were creating much more complicated systems. And thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.